Okay, hello folks, it's me again. I hope you've had a nice half-term break and I hope you're all still well and healthy. We're going to start off carrying on the same style lessons that we had before half-term, although we are going to progress on to different sorts of things, but more about that later. You have to check your emails. But for now, what we're going to do is carry on with some algebra. We're going to move on to formulae. Now, I still haven't got a printer cartridge, so I can't print the sheet out. But if you look in the folder with today's date on, what you'll see is that it tells you on the diagram, it explains all the examples, counterexamples of what a formula is. But just to put it in a nutshell, a formula looks a bit like an equation. It's got the equal sign, but it has more than one letter. It's impossible basically just to solve it by knowing what one of the letters is. You've got to then sort of unwield it. There's multiple answers depending on what the letters are. So in this case, what we're going to do is start off by looking at with A equals B add C, which is a classic example of a very simple formula. The question will go something like this: find the value of A when B is 3 and C is 5. So really simple for a start. What you'll see in the your turn examples that I've put on there for you is they're fairly simple formulae, but I've made them more difficult by, or graduated, with more challenging numbers to substitute into them. But we'll go on, that's why I said part 1 here. There'll be a part 2 next lesson where I'll just go on slightly more tricky ones. But in this case here, A equals B plus C, we're told what 2 of the letters actually equal. So the real thing I want you to do is just to write it down. Instead of B, you put a 3 down. Instead of C, you put a 5 down. So rewrite the formula just underneath. So we write A equals, and we'll see what happens, 3 add, we'll keep it exactly the same, but we'll swap the B for a 3, we'll swap the C for a 5, and we end up with that, which is really simple. So now you know A equals 3 add 5. Well, you all know what 3 add 5 is, so therefore all we need to do is just say, well, okay, 3 add 5 is 8. And so that would be your answer. You've worked out what A is, but only when you knew what B and C were, and that's the key thing with the formula. So as we move on here, same formula, this time round, what I'm going to do is make it a little bit trickier. So it says find the value of C when A is 9 and B is 4. So I'm telling you what different letters are this time. So in this case, I'm telling you what A is. So what we're going to do is keep the formula exactly as you find it, but just swap in the information that you now know. So instead of an A, I'm going to write a 9. We don't know what B is, so I have to leave it as a B. And we do know what B is, because B is 4, isn't it? So ignore me there for a second. We'll put 4 there. We don't know what C is, so we'll have to leave it as a C. There, that's better. I can't read. So now we know this. 9 equals 4 add C. So what we've got now is we can think about this and go, okay, well, what am I going to do? Well, when we were doing the equation, we spoke about the idea of doing the same to both sides. If you want to, we've basically got 4 add C or C add 4 on this side here. If we take away 4 from the right-hand side, we've got to do the same to this side. So basically what we can do is take away 4 from both sides here. And 9 take away 4 will be 5. Of course, we'll be left with the C on this side. So it's okay to leave with the letter on the right-hand side, but 5 equals C means the same as C equals 5. We found out what C was, but only when we had those values. So we could do the same for B, it wouldn't be any more difficult. I've got some questions very similar to this on the sheet for you, a few negative numbers in there, but no more difficult. And then the next two, I'm just going to show you, all right, what we've got here, A equals B minus C. Oh, negative number. So let's do the same now. We're trying to find out what A is. So A equals, B is 3, okay, and C is minus 2, so minus 2. So, you know, we've done this a few times. What does minus 2 mean? Minus means a plus, so we can swap that with 3 plus 2, so A equals 3 plus 2. So therefore, A is 3 plus 2 is 5. Okay, again, pretty simple. All right, this last one, we're going to find the value of C this time again. It's a negative, and so what we're going to do here, A equals B minus C, we'll substitute the values in. So 3 is what A is, B is 5, we don't know what C is. So this is a classic case here where you probably want to rearrange it before you did it. It's easy just to jump in and say, oh, I can see, you know, possibly what the answer is, but just take your time with this. I would advise rearranging it. We don't know. I always said when the equations, if you've got a minus whatever the letter is, add it to the other side. So in this case here, I'm going to add C to both sides. And all that's going to mean is I'm just now going to write 3 add C equals 5. So it's the same statement, all right, written down, just slightly different. So rather than 3 equals 5, take away C, by adding C, we've cancelled it out on the right, we've moved to the left. Now we're going, okay, well, 3 add C or C add 3. We want to know what C is. What's the opposite of add 3? Take away 3. So if we take away 3 from both sides, and this is why it's nice and straightforward, we end up with C equals 2. Now you're probably going to say, yes, sir, hold on. I knew that. 5 take away 2 is 3. Okay, fine, if you can see it, that's all right. But sometimes negative numbers, sometimes it's a bit trickier. It's easy to make a mistake. So properly going through the method, that's the best thing to do. Okay, and then look at this new piece of paper here, which should fit it all on one sheet. So if I just swap to the second piece of paper, what we've now got is, more complicated looking formula. It's not too complicated, A, B, C, and D this time. But what you'll see is, I'm still asking you to find out the value of A, but I'm giving you what 3 letters are. I've got to, because if I don't tell you what they are, how can you find out what A is? So, in this case, A equals BC. Now, what does BC mean? That means B times C. So I know B is 3, so put 3 in it, times by, what's C? 2, and plus D, it's plus 5. So if we write that down, you actually think, this is pretty easy, and it is for a start. So now, what would you do? Which bit first, the times or the add? We do the times first, so 3 times 2 is 6. That's not too tricky. So A is equal to 6 add 5. Now we can do that bit here. So A equals 11. Straightforward. Okay, you found out what A is, but only when you knew what B, C, and D were. And this time we're going to look at the second one, same formula, but this time I'm asking you to find out what D is. So I'm telling you what A is 5. Or keep that, or if you rewrite the formula, put the 5 where the A was. What B? B was 3, so we'll put 3 there. C was 2, so we'll put times 2, and this time we'll put plus D there. So it's very similar, but what we've ended up with, the unknown letter is on the right-hand side, okay? We'll come to different places for the next lesson. So what would you do now? Well, we'll try and simplify it. 3 times 2, we can do that. We know that's 6. So 5 equals 6, add D. So now, what's the classic thing? We know what, 6 add D. We're trying to find out what D is. 6 add D, you remember, is the same as D add 6. What is the opposite of add 6? That's what you've got there, basically. Get rid of that 6. So take away 6. You've got to do it to both sides. If you do that, 5 take away 6 is minus 1. And that's what D is equal to. Trust me, on that last one, a lot of people would go 1. They really would. Now, if you think about it common sense, 6 add 1 wouldn't equal 5. It equals 7. But you'd be surprised that lots of people would say 1. So just be careful with these, okay? Go through the procedure. Don't miss any steps out or try and be too smart, okay, initially. Have a go at the questions on your turn, and I'll have some more, just a slight variation on these next lesson. Okay, look after yourselves. I'll see you soon.